back in 2015, I think it was, when we had flooding all through here, through the region. But at that time, people looked to us to find out what was going on, what roads were closed, where you could go with it, how you would access emergency help. People weren't ringing the SES, they weren't ringing the council, they were ringing the Mercury. My name's Tony Edmonds. I'm a former journalist, sub-editor, sports editor at Mercury. Worked there for just on 40 years. When I first started, I always referred to the Mercury as the paper of record. It was something that they believed future generations would look back on to tell the history of Maitland. In other words, we were there to record the times of Maitland for future generations. The biggest change that I saw is when we went from that afternoon daily, where we held a monopoly on the area, to a morning paper, where all of a sudden we were starting to compete with the Newcastle Herald, the Daily Telegraph, the Sydney Morning Herald. All of a sudden the competition was there and people were choosing other papers. In the afternoon they would walk in and there might have been us and a late edition of the Telegraph. We were the paper that they would choose. That decline was gradual from the time we went to a morning paper. You could see the writing on the wall. I think newspapers in general missed the boat when the digital age came along. Instead of embracing it early and putting in paywalls and getting people to pay as they had done previously, they were giving it away free. And once you give something free, it's very hard to then ask somebody to pay for it. So, sad to see it go. The Mercury has a smaller staff than it ever did. I think its ability to cover all of what's going on in Maitland is difficult. More and more people, you talk to them, and I read on Facebook this morning, and you take it with a grain of salt and you cringe, and has it been fact checked and is it true? But that's the way of life. People live on Facebook these days.
I'm Jeff Seckham. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for the Mutual Bank. And the Mercury was a significant paper in our local area, and we have it advertised quite heavily. We took a spot on their front page. Even in my early days here, 30 odd years ago, I remember meeting John B. Fairfax and Tim Fairfax attending a board meeting in Maitland, which they did because it had such a significant part of the history. As our business grew, our media changed, so the newspaper side of it diminished. I was always disappointed in the reduction. Like any change like that, if you don't move with it, then something takes your place. But it's certainly diminished to what its former glory was. It's very hard to know what to do when you're charging for a publication, and there's so many free publications out there. When you're leading a business, it's a pretty lonely place to be at times because you're not aware of what might happen. You've got to keep adapting, and if you don't, then your business suffers.
I would love to see the day when the Mercury was again regarded as the paper of record. It's still the paper of record. Will it be in another 100 years? I don't know. We can only wish and hope.